Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I hope you are doing well. Today, we are seeing the impact of one major news event, really, on the markets and perhaps the nervousness from the possibility of another. We'll talk about those. And I think the most useful insight from this live will be the following. I do see that the um, the impact of these events will be short-lived, and that the general thesis for the market that liquidity is increasing and therefore the asset prices should follow, that still holds. And therefore, what we're experiencing right now is, I think, a perfect buy the dip opportunity, and that is where you have the general macro pointing bullish, but a news event that causes a temporary dip in the markets. And so let's talk about that in this live. By the way, if you find these lives beneficial, do leave a like. I'd really appreciate that. And subscribe. Become a member of our community. Links to do so is in the description. If you'd like a personal consultation, the link to do so is in the description as well. So let's look at the markets right now and the indexes and what they're telling us. So in the US, the S&P is down a percentage point. The Dow is down half a percentage point. NASDAQ is down 1.7%. So definitely a red day, and something that I think is not too unexpected given how strong of a run we have been on, and the fact that we're really at all-time highs with all of these indexes, or right near all-time highs. And equities have been impacted by the news events that we're going to talk about. Crypto has been impacted on account that it is a risk-on asset, considered a risk-on asset. Now, commodities, a lot of commodities have benefited from the heightened attention. So crude oil is up close to 5%. And other commodities are up as well. Now, what this means, especially considering the news event that we're seeing, is that there may be additional inflationary pressures, but the good side to this is that, you know how the Fed was saying after COVID that the inflation was transitory. Well, in this case, I do think if we see a tick up in inflation, that this will actually be transitory. And it's likely that the Fed will see it as such, and therefore we may not see dramatic policy changes, even if we do get a tick up in inflation. So you've probably heard about this. It's probably not a surprise. But the news event that's causing the markets to head southward is the fact that dock workers at ports from Maine all the way to Texas are going on strike. And the strike started today. We haven't seen a strike like this since 1977. The strike at the time lasted some 40 days. Let's hope that this doesn't happen again. It doesn't last as long as it did last time. Basically, dock workers are trying to have it in their contracts that they're going to get a 77% raise in their wages over the next 6 years. So close to a doubling. Now, the offer, as I understand it, that was made to them was a increase of 50%. So 50% versus 77%. That doesn't seem like too wide of a gap to close. And I think that it will be closed. And also, what the dock workers are asking for is a halt to automation so that they can basically secure their jobs. That, to me, I think is very unreasonable. And also, like, why would you even want to do that? I mean, if a robot can do your job better than you can do, Why do you want to do that job? I mean, wouldn't you feel useless? Wouldn't you feel, I don't know, like a child that is playing a game just without there's no purpose, there's no reason for you to be doing what you're doing, spending your time doing what you're doing, considering a robot could do it way better. And how long do you think you can stop that tide for? I mean, automation is coming, so why not adapt to it sooner rather than later? I just it just surprises me how some people think really in terms of their jobs. Why would you want to be in a job that could be automated? Wouldn't you want to feel useful? Isn't that one of the main points, uh, uh, main sought after outcomes of having a job, being useful? Apparently not. Apparently, for some people, they just want a paycheck. I mean, regardless of what they're doing is actually needed or not. And that's kind of a sad state of affairs to be in as a human being. I mean, at minimum, you should have a goal as a person while on this earth to be useful. But I think that dock workers are being manipulated basically by unions. By the way, I was trying to find the image for, I guess, the union boss, and really it should be called the union boss because unions basically end up being like mafias and gangs, really, and they strong arm people, and there's no value add that they bring. They just cause prices to go up, and they tend to be just like slimy scum. And no offense, and what they do is completely self-serving. They couldn't care less about workers. They're they're trying to get as much money out of the situation as they can, and they're trying to stay relevant, and they don't want automation, and they've convinced workers that they don't want automation either, even though I think it's in the best interest of workers to have automation where automation makes sense, and for the workers to actually be retrained and find more fulfilling jobs. I think it's in their best interest for them to do so, but the union mafia has convinced them that that's not in their best interest. And so, long story short, I think that this will be solved, and there's a lot of urgency to solve it. Number one, it's very costly for the economy. It's going to cost close to 4 billion every day, and the longer it goes on, the more expensive it becomes. And also, the elections are coming up, and so the current administration, the party that's currently in power, is going to have a really strong incentive to try and see where it can exert pressure, and it's going to exert it in order to get a deal done. Like I said, if you look at the terms, it does seem like both parties are close, even if they're not at agreement yet. And I think they'll eventually get an agreement. And that's why I think that now is this dip that we're seeing. And I was close to pulling the trigger on buying a couple of things before, but I just thought that the momentum was too strong downwards, and I didn't want to catch a falling knife. But this is why I think that this is a good buy the dip situation, because this is a news event that, yes, is causing understandable nervousness in the market, but I think it's happening in a larger context that is bullish for asset prices. Now, the second issue that we have that's impacting markets is that it does appear that the conflict in the Middle East is escalating, and perhaps this is sort of hot off the wire. Iran is preparing for a strike on Israel. I doubt this is the case. I mean, even if there are some intelligence reports saying this, I could be wrong. But the reason why I doubt this is the case is because in April, Iran had a full effort attack on Israel, and the outcome was zero casualties in Israel. And Iran, I don't know, spent half its GDP trying to carry out that attack. So I don't know what they're going to do different this time. And as a cost to an attack, I think Israel will take full advantage and probably hit their nuclear project and likely wipe it out entirely. They've been waiting for a reason to do so. Now seems like the perfect time, since it does appear that Hezbollah has been, for all intents and purposes, defanged, and is no longer a threat to them. And that was the major sort of card that Iran could play. But now it doesn't have that card. So Israel, in its response, will likely see this as an opportunity to end Iran's nuclear project. And so I doubt Iran will strike Israel. I don't see what Iran has to gain from that, except further proving that it's not capable of waging an effective attack. But we'll see. Who knows? The asset that I wanted to focus a bit more on crypto in this live. Now we are coming out of September, and I think it's noteworthy here that the September that we just came out of was the best September on record for Bitcoin. So we were up 7%, 7.3% in September. And October historically is a much better month than September is. The average return for Bitcoin in October is 21%, whereas the average in September is minus 3%. So if we can get a record-breaking September, perhaps we can get a record-breaking October. That would be nice. Now, altcoins have pulled back a lot in the as a result of the recent pullback in risk assets in general. However, we are seeing tokens like FTT perform well, and I just wanted to briefly touch upon this because I don't want you guys to lose any money here, and I want you guys to understand what's going on. So, FTX, the shamed brokerage that was using customer deposits to gamble basically in the crypto markets, had a token called FTT. And very understandably, that token went to zero once the brokerage that issued it was found out to be a fraud. Recently, in the last 7 days, this token is up 67%. In the last month, it's up 80%. I want to caution against gambling with these tokens and try. By the way, the reason for this pump are rumors that there is going to be some payback to creditors from FTX. So perhaps this token was just shorted like crazy, and the positive news that FTX was paying back creditors caused a bit of a bump that was exaggerated by the enormous amounts of shorts that were shorting FTT token, and that explains the bump. And then the very gullible crypto investors came in and piled on. Perhaps that is one explanation. No one can really say for sure what's going on here. But I will remind the viewers of Luna and Celsius, and they both had similar fates where their tokens went to near zero. And after they went to near zero, they had some pumps along the way, different random events, but they went back to zero. So trying to make money off of something like this FTT token is like trying to, pick up dollars in front of a steamroller. And so it's a very it's a very risky thing. So I would I would not try to play that game. This is, for all intents and purposes, a dead token. People want to gamble, that's up to them, but the most important thing about investing is never to lose capital. That's the priority number one. Do not lose your capital. And I see a lot of unjustified hype around the latest mover in crypto that I think that people should be wary about. Um, so with that, let's take some questions. So am I still bullish on Doge? Yes, I am. And the reason why I'm bullish on Doge is because of my overall understanding of cryptocurrency, which is that the value add of cryptocurrency is that it can introduce artificial scarcity, basically, which I think can be used in many ways, including preserving purchasing power and preserving value under certain conditions. And Dogecoin has that. It has the same code base as Bitcoin, has a small and decreasing inflation rate over time, and it's much smaller in market cap compared to Bitcoin. What we've seen is that in bullish regimes in the market, Dogecoin goes up more than Bitcoin does. And considering I think that this is the stage of the market that we're entering, that is a more bullish regime, I think Dogecoin will perform better. Now, it's important to sell when you think that the bullish regime is close to or nearing the top, because when things go badly, it goes down more than others as well. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, we're also looking at other alts, and we want to be positioned. And this pullback actually is an opportunity that inshallah we'll take advantage of. We want to be positioned well for, I think, the bull run that will be primarily supported by liquidity levels rising in a way that we haven't seen since 2020, really. And that's something that I went over in yesterday's live, if you haven't seen that. Um, let's go to other questions. Sheikh Adnan, Assalamu alaikum, alaikum salam. Brother Khan, Assalamu alaikum. Rashad, what is your take after Jolts? I haven't looked at Jolts. How do you do short selling in halal way? Shorts, I'm comfortable saying, are not halal, and I'm not really sure how to create a synthetic short that's halal, really. Um, Although it's an interesting, I think, thought experiment. Abraham says Iran will never fight Israel. Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I don't really think that it has much to gain in terms of entering direct conflict with Israel. There's enough, I think, gullible, really, Arab Shiites in the area that have proved to be more than willing to, fight on its behalf for whatever reason. And so I don't see Iran's incentive to change that policy. Predictions for Solana till the end of this year. Um, I do think that it'll probably end this year in the 200s, somewhere in the 200s. So right now it's at 149. So I think there's a healthy return to be had here on Solana, but it won't be the fastest mover. I have not checked out ACMR. I will though. I promise you, I will. Have you? If you're a PIF member, are you a PIF member, Faisal? Uh, well, I'll see how many. After I look at it, I'll see whether it would be good for a live or perhaps for PIF members. Assalamu alaikum, brother. Did you check Bitcoin and M1 halal or not? Brother, if M1 is holding Bitcoin, that's something you can check. If M1 is holding Bitcoin, then it's fine. If it's just holding derivatives, then so it's not actually holding Bitcoin. It's holding representations of Bitcoin, derivatives from Bitcoin, then no, I would stay away from that. But if it is holding Bitcoin, then I think it's comfortable to buy Bitcoin from them. All right, guys, gotta go. I have a bunch of research reports that I'm very excited about. If you haven't, and a bunch of buys really to take advantage of this dip. If you haven't become a PIF member and you would like additional insights, then do become a PIF member. Link is in the description. Leave a like, subscribe. I love you all. Take care. Until next time. Assalamu alaikum and peace be upon you all.